right, participants. Hi, everyone. Welcome, welcome. We're just going to wait a couple minutes to give a chance for everyone to join, and then we will start. There we go. My computer is very sensitive. All right.
See the attendees trickling in. That's great. Welcome, everyone.
Hi, everybody. All right. Welcome to our NAFSA peer-to-peer perspective event, Stretching Your Budget in Challenging Times, Resources for Intensive English Program. My name is Emmy Zlatkowska, and I am the director of the Intensive English Program at University of Southern Indiana. And I am also the IP network discussion leader for IMKC with NAFSA, and I want to thank my panelists today for joining me to this roundtable discussion to talk about this pressing issue, provide some suggestions, share good ideas, and hopefully we hear from our participants as well as we discuss the different topics. Yes, very nice to see some familiar names in the participation list, and I'll let my co-panelists introduce themselves. Jordan, let's start with you.
Jordan Gusich. I'm the assistant director here at the Program for Intensive English at Indiana University, Purdue University, Indianapolis. Been here for about 6 years, and part of my responsibility portfolio is our budget, finance, and of course hiring faculty and staff. So hope to share some tidbits and also hear from you all today. Thanks for coming.
And
Cheryl.
Yes, thanks, Jordan. My name is Cheryl Delclagood. I'm the executive director for English USA, based here in Atlanta, Georgia, and it's nice to see a lot of familiar names on the screen. Nice to meet you.
Just some housekeeping items before we continue with the presentation. This session is recorded and will be available for up to on the main event website along with the resources. So feel free to access it. Feel free to share it. And of course, the resources you can use and download for your purposes. We will have a couple of polls, and then we have a Padlet, and the link is also posted in the chat. So feel free to comment as we go through the themes that we selected to talk about today. But there will also be time that we can address and just share ideas and learn from each other. So the overview for today, we'll have overview of the English language program industry, and then we'll talk about leveraging relationships, stretching budgets, and budget-friendly innovations, along with question and answers that I'll try to follow, and we can address at the end. All right, Ms. Cheryl?
Yes, so as the executive director for English USA and the trade association, I know that there are several members here on the call, but in this role, it provides me the opportunity to give a little bit of overview, some trends, anecdotes, a little bit of informal information, flash survey information from our members. So for those of you who are not familiar, even those of you who are, we are sitting at just over 200 member programs across the US in almost all the states. And and even though we would like that number to be higher, as a trade association, we represent the industry. So that's, I'm pretty sure why I was also invited to this, to share some of the larger overview. So as an association, we provide multiple virtual events throughout the year. This fits in the topic of budget friendly, which I'll probably bring up later, but and also 2 signature conferences, one of which is coming up just next month. So as the Professional Trade Association, providing support in the form of professional development, along with representing the industry, not necessarily just our members, but the industry as we advocate with government agencies, sponsoring bodies, etc. And the collaboration also goes with our strategic partners, one of whom is U.S. Commercial Services, Department of Commerce, so a government organization which also has some budget-friendly options, which we'll talk about. So on the next slide, I wanted to show the famous roller coaster graphic that that comes out in just about every presentation when you're dealing with enrollments and budgets and such. This is from Open Doors. English USA and USEEP, the University Consortium of IEPs, collaborate with IIE every year to push out the survey that they do for intensive English programs, which is based on a calendar year. And I say that because the yellow line there is for international students, and that is based on the academic year. So this is the data from 2020, which shows a bit of an uptick, even though there is a data lag, so we don't know what that line is going to look like next year. But you'll see that as time has gone by, we have bounced back. We always have bounced back. I don't think we ever take for granted that we've bounced back, but it is something that we've gotten familiar with in English language program industry. We are often hit by by regional type events and such, and economic events. And then of course, if you bring a pandemic into it, of course, we're going to be hit. The other stat down there is that just over 37,000 students were studying at IEPs in the US in that year 2020, calendar year 2020. At 362 IEPs, I'm aware that there are more intensive English programs than that, but those were the ones that were reported. The US has always been a bit higher on calendar student weeks in the calendar than other countries are. We may be seeing a change in that. So, on the next slide, I just wanted to point out why we're here today, which the title gives it all away. But the data, some of the questions from IIE's survey talked about the impact of COVID, and I just thought I would include this snippet, is that 67% of those respondents have been affected by program budget cuts and staff and teaching layoffs and furloughs. So as this group talked last week, we know what the problems are, so we don't necessarily want to focus on those, but I think it is important to also mention that the field has obviously been experiencing other challenges over the past several years, and then add COVID with the different policies and protocols, and not just in every state, but then when you get down to the local region or the institution, those are impacting our budgets as well, and in ways that we'll likely talk about today. The embassy openings, reopenings, and then obtaining visas for English language study only, that still sits as a concern that we, English USA, is advocating for. Most of you probably saw the joint statement of principles that came out from the Departments of State and Education on July 26th-ish. And English USA, USEEP, TESOL, and NAFSA, for which we're very grateful for, along with CEA and ASSET with their support, spoke to some of those concerns that we have. But there is hope in this administration, and as International Week approaches, not too quickly, I need some time. I mean, we're hoping for also, some other information and announcements coming out of the government. The shrinking markets and the affordability, these are other challenges that are both budget related, they're bottom line related, even though that's not how we like to speak, but they are. But on the next slide, I just wanted to share some very quick, we call them flash surveys. So this was a survey, and I think I saw Sandy on here who had asked if this information was going to be shared, and here you go. The good news is that we had about 35% of our programs respond to this quick survey, and about half of those respondents have seen increases in enrollments from last fall. The elephant in the room is an increase in enrollment may be from 3 students to 6 students. But those increases, proportionally, there are some programs that, while they may not be up to pre-COVID levels, they are up significantly compared to last year. And on the next slide, we have known this, that especially those of you who have been delivering in person for a long time, we had a lot of programs that started in-person courses back in September, August of 2020, while the rest of the world, not the rest of the world, that's an overgeneralization if there ever was one, many countries were, they were not allowed to do so. So I think it's, don't go to the next slide yet, but I think it's on the next slide. We'll talk about how the US has been open for business for quite a while. So you'll see that according to this survey, nearly 80% of our programs are offering in person. And there may be a combination of the others depending on circumstance, right? With the variant, maybe some programs have gone to hybrid high flex. So on the next slide, I just wanted to share some positive notes, I guess. Yes, we are open. Compared to some other destinations, we've been open. And when I say open, I mean open, but also in person. Ireland, my counterpart in Ireland, they just opened yesterday. And again, that's a generalization based on the visa policies and study policies per country. The other good news in looking ahead is that we know that language and cultural immersion in person is still desired for those coming to the US to study English, and for our college juniors who would like to go abroad and study study abroad. And as the inclusive voice of the English language program community, as I feel that we are with English USA and its members, which include university programs, college-based programs, pathway programs, proprietary programs, independent programs, there's a sense of collaborative competitiveness. I wish we could say we came up with that word, but we didn't. But it's such a trade associations. I mean, it's a group of community. It's the community of competitors, but English USA community members and our field as a whole has always gotten strength from this collaboration and collaborative competitiveness with the sharing of best practices, as Emmy and Jordan are about to do, even though they live in the same state and maybe compete for the same students. The increased presence of our industry overseas through association collaboration and also here in the US, I think has improved over the past year and a half. I can say COVID time. English USA became a member of ACE, American Council on Education, which has been really helpful when it comes to presence. And our counterparts overseas, English UK, English Australia, Languages Canada, Ireland, Malta, Philippines. We are also exposed, we're exposed to the other markets in that way. And then going back to that, you don't have to going back because we don't need to see it again. The chart, our experience with the roller coaster has trained us basically to be nimble for what will come. And not only do we know the ups and the downs will continue to come, but we know how to soar in and swiftly make the changes needed. So we know our field will never be the same again. We know that, but I'm not talking about numbers. I'm talking about innovations, etc. So I think that was it, Emmy, for my particular piece.
Yes. And so we continue now with the topics that we thought would be easier to arrange our conversation and discussion. And as I mentioned in the chat, we have the link to the Padlet where the three themes that we decided to discuss are kind of arranged, and feel free to post a little post-it note under each of these topics, and then we can pull that toward the end. But we are looking forward to collecting your information or comments or suggestions throughout the presentation. So as Cheryl mentioned, we did meet last week and just talked about what are some things that would be meaningful to talk about and that would be useful for everyone. And so the first one we thought we should kind of focus around would be the leveraging relationships. So Jordan, you wanna start? Like what do you wanna share?
I think there was a nice segue there with Cheryl's concept of collaborative competition. Was that right?
Yes.
Collaborative competition. We've always been, our program's always been just an open book for anyone who's interested, and you know, and others in our area. We've got a number of IEPs in Indiana, including Emmys here, and everybody's been very collaborative. We even do an TESOL, the Indiana TESOL. We usually have a session just for the IEPs in the area, which is shrinking, sadly. But one of these was, we had a university, a smaller, without being identifiable, a smaller liberal arts university here in the city. And they were interested in opening their own IEP. And they contacted us and we said, absolutely, come on over. We had a nice meeting. We showed them everything, just opened up all our books. And by the end of the meeting, they said, you know what, this is too much for us to do. Why don't can you be our intensive English program? I think that was a good example of that. You know, what we thought might be competition actually was, you know, a complete collaboration. So we are now there. And this happened again, sadly, due to COVID. Another program closed their intensive English program, and they came to us, and we already had this model saying, yeah, we're doing this for another university in town. And they said, perfect, let's make this happen. So some pros and cons there, depending on what side of the fence you're on. But it was a case of collaboration. But the big one for what's happening right now has been our collaboration with the community. It truly was a saving grace for our program, with just so few students being able to make it over here due to a number of issues due to the pandemic. We noticed just an uptick. It was already starting, we just didn't notice it before COVID, that we were getting more and more community members, citizens, residents, asylees, refugees. And when we noticed that uptick and then COVID, we really started trying to reach out to the community. We work with we communicate with and attend each other's meetings with the Immigrant Welcome Center here in Indianapolis. We've also started communicating with the free ESL programs that are offered around the city, because a lot of their students are looking for that next level. Let's get to a little bit higher, more formal academic style atmosphere, and it's just been wonderful working with these groups. We do not see it as competition. It absolutely is collaboration, and it is in the students' best interest, and that's just been amazing for us.
And if I can build on that.
Well, I learned a lot of this from Emmy, by the way, about reaching out to the community.
I mean, when you're, especially when you're not a brand name school, you know, we're a smaller university, public but smaller university, and we don't have IU in our name, or Purdue. And so, but Jordan and I, we'll connect a lot at the conference, but also with other colleagues. I do rely on my NAFSA network. I do rely on my, other colleagues from international education, and certainly Cheryl and the membership. The community was really like we're gaining more and more people. We're offering a different cost for the community members, but reaching out to the businesses in the area. We have a Toyota factory. We have Berry Plastics, and they're the ones that do all the lids for McDonald's, in case you're wondering. Mead Johnson, who does the baby formula. So all these huge factories employ or bring people from pretty much all over the world to their employment, and their dependents, their themselves, like they'll need additional language support. So we develop proposal to these companies, and we do get not a large, but a decent number, and even at a discounted price, like we still get good revenue from the community. We also do at the churches, because they're the ones who a lot of times offer those free classes. And once we help these immigrants understand what their goals are, where they want to go. And a lot of times you get immigrants who are lawyers, doctors, and they do want better lives. So they really, the next step to continue would be our program. And so that's like community partnerships. We also try to expand our partnerships with our sister university, with our overseas partner universities, and try to come up with different programs, short-term, long-term, whatever they're interested in, be that online or in person. And like Cheryl said, we did start classes August 2020. We were in person the entire time. But that's really helping us. The partnerships are really bringing a good number of students that we can enroll in our classes of English.
I mean, we got a cool question in the Q&A there. So the community members, especially refugees and asylees, in terms of payment, it can be expensive for them. Are you doing anything to help with them?
So we actually looked at, because with the Afghanistan refugees now, we have them located about 45 minutes away from Evansville. And I know they're about an hour away from Indianapolis, for example, for the state of Indiana. But we were looking at different grants from the Department of State and Department of Education, but we couldn't find any resources. So it's mostly like volunteering, and if people want to volunteer, but that is a good relationship to establish and work with the volunteers. They do have an established curriculum that they're training the volunteers to help with the English classes, but we haven't gotten any information about grants or funding for the refugees.
But in general, are you offering a different pricing scheme for?
Yes, I mean, they would be
members?
considered community members for us. So they would be like, I mean, at a fraction of the price to get classes if they're interested. So, but we're reaching out to the center that's actually about an hour from us to see if we can work with the volunteers, offer training, and just, because that would be potentially then students who would want to join the university, even if they don't join the intensive English program.
Yeah, we haven't offered, we've just started discussions about how to go about doing that, but we haven't yet. We did have, and this is kind of another strategy, we had some philanthropic dollars come in, which is something I never thought about. It essentially fell in our lap, but it did, start us thinking about how to get that. And those philanthropic dollars, the donor who gave it did say that this should be for community members. So we are offering a discount, but it's not part of our pricing scheme. It's just we lucked out. But it did, encourage me. I'm really less afraid to ask. I think a lot of what we're doing, but as a field with IEPs, people appreciate it.
Yeah.
And they're open to opening their pocketbooks to help out. It's been a fascinating experience, this whole philanthropy idea for me. I've never been on the receiving end of it. So that helps, but we haven't. But we're talking about it now because it really is an interesting student population, and there are different. It's a different situation. You think about an F1 student who needs to, by government policy, needs to show proof of funds to even get a visa over to come over here. That's just a whole different situation with these students. So we're considering ways to discount their cost. And I think, at the end of the day, 10 students at half price is the same as 5 students at full price. And it's those kind of things we're running through right now to try to figure out how to do that.
And Tracy's asking, for us, the community members don't have to go through the regular admission process. We just have an in-house application to collect their contact information, and then we work with our bursar's office to send the invoices directly to them. So we worked inside with the bursar office to create a miscellaneous account for our program where the money collected will be deposited and then transferred to the account. But we're trying to make it as simple as possible because usually the community members are really busy people who don't really have time to provide transcript and provide all these other material financial documents. They work. And so we actually really appreciate having them in the classes because they're really motivated and they're helping the other students kind of engage and join. The other thing, oh, go ahead, Cheryl.
I was going to respond to both Patrick's and I guess Jeremy's comment in the chat. And that's about smaller schools competing with larger brand name. And then I think Jeremy mentioned something about being in Kansas City and being new, and he called it a disadvantage. And I just want to bring out in the leveraging relationships piece that being new can have so many advantages because you can get in front of people sometimes easier just because you're new. Hey, I'm new. And a smaller institution to hit at Patrick's too is a smaller institution where processes and units, et cetera, are sometimes less centralized. Is that what you want to say? The other way. It's possible to bring people together again, Jeremy, just because you're new, and then Patrick, because you're small, and you can bring the group together. I often tell our members, or I think it's worth repeating over and over and over again that there's so much turnover. I mean, look what's happening to our field. There's so much turnover. When someone else is new, that's also a reason to reach out if there's a new admissions person. And for our proprietary independent programs, I never want to keep in mind that we have different structures. That goes for the community as well. If you keep in smaller cities, if you keep in touch and in line with some changes that may be happening with corporations or free programs or something in the area, putting yourself in front of people, we used to say and offer them food or something like that, but now, it's so much easier to do online. So repeat on the relationships. The beginning of a session or semester is not the best time, as we know. And the other thing on the relationships is that there are so many cities that have such strong, and states that have such strong collaborations with other IEPs, as Jordan has mentioned. But if anybody ever wants some help getting in touch with those people, that's easy for you to do, but easier for me to do because I can just push a few buttons. Philly has a strong group. Boston has a strong group. The state of Florida has a very strong group. New York City has a strong group. So think about that too.
And also like the study state consortium, we're currently working on getting up and running the Study Indiana. So a lot of times they have good connections to and of course NAFSA, like the general, the big conference, like a lot of the foreign institutions come. So it's a great opportunity to connect with other universities who are looking for partnerships or potentially English language services, which we have found works. I mean, when you partner up, and sometimes you just need one student, and then you know, the word of mouth is a very powerful recruitment tool. And I just want to add here the alumni. We just started leveraging that relationship as we're approaching the International Week. Again, not so soon, right, Cheryl? But we are trying to really, you know, try to make some noise for our university. And I was just looking at my Facebook profile. I have 1,700 friends on Facebook. And if I post something and my followers then post something, and we have students who graduated from our intensive English program or from the university who live all over the world. So utilizing your alumni for advertisement and really sharing their experiences while they were in our program, that's one of the way we want to leverage these relationships and just spread the word.
Yeah, I don't think we can, you know, social media is so powerful now. We've just turned it over. Our administrative team is maybe on the older side, and we just turned it over to one of our younger staff, and it just exploded, you know, because we don't know what, I don't know what are clicking. I just talked to Emmy that I just downloaded WhatsApp for the first time this session, just last month. And boy, it really works. Get that word out, especially for our alumni, where they're coming in and joining our social media. It really helps get word out. And I guess it fits more under budget-friendly innovations, one of our other themes. But it's man hours. That's it, person hours to get content up and to post. There's really no cost there directly.
Yeah. Jeremy's asking if some of the community members who want IP courses for credit with transcripts, others don't, do we need to do different pricing sets? I guess that's something that you may need to talk to your registrar and bursars. We don't register them because we don't want them to incur those prices, because if they're officially registered, then I cannot justify the lower prices. And most of the time they just need, our IP courses are not something that will count towards graduation. They're non-degree classified, so it won't do them any good. We do give them certificates. We do give them IP transcripts, but they're not official university transcripts. And ours are detailed with the courses and the points earned or the grades earned. Whereas if they do the university, it would be just, you know, pass, didn't pass. So because they're not considered for graduation, they're not counted toward graduation. So I think that's something that you can decide in-house with upper management maybe, which I also had as part of our discussion. When you think about leveraging relationships and think about who you rely on in you know, if you're on campus, for example, like we're part of a university, but the support you get from upper management, sharing the value and upper management understanding the value that our programs bring, it's really, really important. So advocating for our students, advocating for our programs, and just educating upper management, because a lot of times they really don't know what we're doing. They don't know all these students. So I keep inviting them when we have an event. I keep inviting them when the students first come, and then a couple months later, and they're always amazed of the progress that the students make in terms of language. They're amazed how fast the students are learning. So that's a way we you know, showcase and demonstrate and advocate for our students. So that's something. It gives you a reason to talk to them. All right, Jordan, Cheryl, anything else to add on this? Or
We'll
should
move to our second theme. I don't know if you have to show the slide. How to stretch.
Okay.
Stretched. We don't have to show it.
Yeah, so it is a discussion after all. But yeah, our next topic is how to stretch your budget when you're already stretched. Like, what else do you cut? Like, what else do you cut after you've cut everything? And I think, Erin, at this point, it might be good to do our little poll. If we're okay to do. I would like to ask the participants to choose an answer for the two questions and vote.
And we cannot vote, I see.
No, we know the answers. We can't cheat, Jordan. All right. Oh, cool. Oh, sadly, but yes, right. These are some of the issues that Cheryl talked a little bit at the beginning of the presentation. So, and we all know the issues, right? We all deal with these issues, but like, what are some things we're doing? Yeah, we're all stretched. I think 20 people voted. And it's what do you do? How are you, how are you dealing with this? People have been fired or furloughed, and there's an administrator or as an instructor in an intensive English program have been given more responsibilities, or you had to take more responsibilities. So Jordan, what's happening in your program?
Well, we've got a, I'm sure I'm saying it's an interesting arrangement, but I'm sure other programs use a lot of what we call associate faculty, part-time faculty. So yes, we've had reductions, but it's in the part-time faculty that we saw the reductions. And it's nice that, we're here in Indianapolis. There is a steady stream of applicants that are very interested in part-time work and very happy with it. They're spouses of other faculty and staff around campus. They have other jobs, but it works out well for us. The way we balance that is with, we have just a culture here of agency. We treat everyone as faculty, and what they lose in job security and financially they gain in respect and being part of our educational culture here. It's amazing. So that's helped us a bit to deal with this. But now we're struggling on the other end as we're coming back. It's hard to bring back teachers because they've moved on to other things. So that's helped a little bit. And we also have we operate under responsibility-centered management. This means all our money, even though we're part of the university, part of the School of Liberal Arts, our money comes to us first, and then what we colloquially call a tax. It's an assessment that we give a large chunk of that back to the university. So we've always been very frugal from the beginning. We've stretched. That's all we know is stretching. So now we're trying to figure out ways to continue stretching. Big one for us is we made the tough decision to not go for CEA accreditation. We are in our 7th year of operation. We've never been accredited. We took a couple, started moving in that direction, even started our self-study, but we just looked at the cost and it was just prohibitive to us. I mean, on a cost benefit analysis, we just couldn't fork over those dollars to make it happen. It's rather expensive, as a lot of you know. So we didn't go for it. On the other hand, one of our panelists who couldn't make it today, Kate, she said, "Oh my goodness, without CEA, we would have never made it through the pandemic and the downswing, because one of the standards for CEA is the financial standard where you have to have a rainy day fund. I don't know what they call it, but you have to have something there to support." So that was interesting to see both those sides. How we didn't go with it because of finances, and Kate said that it was a huge benefit for her to be part of it. So, and it's a way to get around. I mean, we still based our curriculum on CEA standards. So CEA played a major role in our program, despite not being a member, not being accredited by them. And we do other things. I'm knee deep in a program evaluation now that we're just doing internally to make sure that we are meeting standards and we are doing what we're saying we're doing and meeting our mission, or not, wherever we're at. So there's still ways around that, even though we didn't fork over the money or become accredited.
Yeah. We similarly, we try to see what are some things where we can save. We lost people. I'm down 3 staff members, teachers left. We just don't have enough students or classes to give, right? But we did keep our C accreditation. That is what we believe is our token of validation or recognition, if you will. And we just looked at like what are some things that we can keep and really represent the program. We looked at the efficiency of processes, how we do the processes, so we can make our job easier. And then a lot of professional development was cut, but then really reevaluating what memberships are worth to the program and continuing. So Cheryl mentioned, it applies to members and teachers, so it's not just one person. So really looking at things like that and just to incorporate for the program. Go ahead, Cheryl.
And I think this may be part of the last theme, but it fits here too. You just said about looking at processes and on our call, and I know as an association, we just did this too. We were using a system that we purchased several years ago that was very powerful, robust, and but along the 2 year, the time of the agreement, 2.5 years we were into it, we realized that because of COVID, we just didn't have time. It's the catch-22. We didn't have time to invest in we didn't have the time to make it to get it to the robust level that it was. So looking at some of the things that you use and you just keep using and you just keep renewing just because is actually going to save the association a couple $1,000s this year, which is a lot of money these days, I'm aware of, because our membership dues are not that expensive for English USA, but I've heard from people it's it's a whole line that gets cut in the budget, right? And in this case, we're trimming down a line that was easily accepted because it was a process and a system, so it was more easily not noticed. So look at some of the systems that you use, because there may be a better way to do it that might just mean an Excel spreadsheet.
I'm a big fan of Excel spreadsheets. So we've been working on a database, and we can't get away from the spreadsheets. But yeah, it's nice being part of an institution. We're even talking with the university admissions about using their application platform, where we just don't even have to use our own for that. As well as for recruitment, I work with university admissions and recruiters regularly. And there's no reason to overlap our efforts. We're both experiencing tough times, so why not work together? And I guess that's part of leveraging relationships as well. I've always stayed close with
I feel like our themes overlap. They're so connected. Yeah.
Yeah.
Do one without doing the other.
Yeah. There's plenty of relationships we need to build right around us here in our own institutions, if we're university based.
And that goes again to that efficiency. Like, are we efficient? Like, why are we duplicating efforts? And not just for recruitment, but also for programming and for retention of the students. If we're as a program are doing field trips and efforts to support our students, we have a huge cut in programming, and so we're trying to reach out to other offices and just try to advertise what they're doing and connecting our students to all these other offices that make these efforts of engagement. So really helping each other and trying to cut the cost on things that we didn't pay that much attention before. And counting on that rainy day funds but now it's really the rainy day, so let's be more frugal and more planning. Anything else to add on for this? Mary is asking who is they for the curriculum. It's on the Department of Education. I think it's the Department of Education that provides the curriculum and the training for the volunteers. Yeah, you can, if you Google if you go to their website, and you can find more information.
I see some in the chat about considering not renewing CEA. Yeah, we were never in that situation to renew. I did contact, when we were trying to decide, I looked at the list that CEA publishes who was renewed, who wasn't, who withdrew, and I reached out to them. I was assuming that they withdrew for reasons that we're talking about here. Unfortunately, I contacted like 3 or 4 of the institutions, and unfortunately they were withdrew due to closure of their program. I still recommend reaching out to folks. I mean, this is a great event here, but I've had I really miss conferences. I really miss, cheersing with people, having coffees with people, rubbing elbows with all of you. And I kind of did that through Zoom. I started with that CEA list. It was great conversations. It was kind of like a post-mortem for them. And just had some great conversations and learned quite a bit. And I've been doing that with other colleagues too. Just let's do an hour on Zoom and talk about whatever, about our programs. And it's been working really well. I really enjoy that. It's not the same as NAFSA or English USA stakeholders, but it's pretty good. It's pretty good, and I've learned quite a bit.
And this is a great segue to our last theme, budget-friendly innovations. You were talking about Zoom and connecting with colleagues and talking about programs on Zoom. Go ahead, Sharon.
Can I add to that? Because it's in this theme and it adds to
yes,
what.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Because we started something, and again, association point of view, but they're called Zoom-arounds. And, we didn't come up with that one either, but I don't know if I want to own it. But in a Zoom around, the member, a colleague in the US, has a particular topic that they want to get together and talk to people about, kind of like when you're at a conference and you're sitting at a table and you don't know anybody, you just come out and say, hey, has anybody, done this in the past, whenever. Well, that becomes the topic of the Zoom around. And then, yes, there has to be a date and a time set, which doesn't make it as, organic as you'd like for these conversations to be over, cheese and crackers. But we have one of those coming up in a couple of weeks. And it's a topic that we haven't heard about in a while. And that is, what about those programs that are still considering starting a pathway piece, if they're at a university? And it was such a hot topic 18, 19, months ago that we had a lot of sessions on it. And that topic has kind of, not gotten as much talk anymore. So it's another, I'm talking about from an association, English USA's point of view, but anybody could do that, right? I mean, you could, and just so you know, I can help with that too. So if you want to connect with people in Florida or Tennessee about something, but you don't know people or whatever, again, let me know. I can help.
Leveraging your networks. So the last topic, we really, so that's one of the things. It's like really using these conversations to find ways to innovate in your recruitment, in your retention, and like what are some things that you can do cheaply, right? So gathering with a group of people to brainstorm, using associations, using your connections. One of our colleagues talked about, repackaging the curriculum and offering it to sister universities or partners in smaller units at a different cost, so they can register, take classes at a particular, they can pick and choose what they want to do. If they want to do grammar, listening and speaking, or repackaging units, for example, of a certain course that's being offered. Per client request, I had to work with our bursar office I'm not much of a budget person. I'm still learning a lot, actually. That was not one of the hats I wore before. We created this sliding scale based on number of students, based on number of services offered, that gave me more independence to make decisions and make offers to potential clients, that I don't have to always go and ask for permission because of the way we are structured. But it does resonate with people, and it helps them make decisions, and it's a faster turnaround. If you're part of a public university, you may know that it takes forever sometimes to make decisions. So I sometimes you just have to. This is something I did come up with, Cheryl. I call it being diplomatically pushy. Uh, so really navigating when diplomacy starts and when pushiness starts. So that's when you back off, but really still sticking to your goal to develop those sliding prices for the cost of a program, and it's been helpful. So I thought those are some interesting ideas. And then in terms of like overall recruitment at our university and our program, like it's the international office, and our intensive English program is part of the international office that we do all the international recruitment. We do not have a recruiter. So trying to reestablish connection with agents, trying to reestablish connections with alumni, and choosing wisely. Do we as a non-brand university, will we really be beneficial at big fairs? So really trying to analyze like where would we be successful, and focusing our resources, what's left of it, in the right direction. Jordan, what do you have to add?
Yeah, I think that's cool. And somebody's mentioning in the chat too. So we've got sliding scales. You know, these are business terms and business ideas. Think about plane tickets. Why does my plane to Chicago, it's always a different price? Well, there's something going on in the background. And they are, principles that we can apply. This other one, this coupon, somebody's mentioning a coupon for next session or a discount for next session. Absolutely. Again, in the business world, we all know it's easier to keep a customer than it is to get a new customer. It's almost, passe to mention and with business-minded people. And why not borrow that idea? This is something we're thinking about for those community members that I mentioned previously, that, yeah, maybe not the first session, we won't, have some kind of sliding scale, but to encourage them to come for the next session, or maybe encourage them to go from part-time to full-time. Mm-hmm. We can offer some kind of discount or coupon. I kind of like the idea of a coupon. Yeah. So we've had, I've been approached by husbands and wives, can we get a buy one, get one free? So I think coupons apropos.
Or school fairs, international fairs in the community, and we pull, we give it awards and be like, hey, you won a class in the intensive English program, and normally they come with a friend, and so it's just different strategies, right?
Another thing we're considering is, new programs, which do have some, costs involved, but nothing major. We've been we've been working with au pairs for a number of years now, and we turn away way more than we can, because we're a 9 to 5 program, and more like 8 to 4, but it just didn't work for the au pairs. And again, I started reaching out to these agencies that work with au pairs, seeing what would work, seeing what they would like. I did some focus groups with our former students who were au pairs to see what would work. And yeah, we're in the process now of designing curriculum that'll be later, 5, 6 o'clock, that will fulfill the education requirement for the J1 visa for au pairs. That was a territory I never thought I would be in, and now I'm shoulder deep in learning all about it and what they need and designing a curriculum.
And I'd like to add, I know we're getting towards the end of the hour, but I also wanted to emphasize the importance of staying updated on the the advocacy pieces and things that are happening in the big picture on international education, because when those announcements come out, and and I think of my previous situation when I worked downtown Atlanta in an office building with, at a program, those elevator pitches sometimes, the elevator speech when you're in the elevator with a community member or the chair of the chemical engineering department, and you're like, oh, so excited about the news that came out last week, about XYZ with the joint statement of principles, et cetera. The Department of Commerce is coming out. They're probably lining it up with International Education Week, but they're coming out with promotional collateral that anyone in the U.S. is going to be able to use. I know Emmy mentioned the Study State Consortia, for which I'm very supportive of. What I'm not supportive of sometimes is the fact that not all states have a consortium. Georgia got rid of theirs a couple of years ago. So, while your state might not have a consortia, you are part of the, we do pay money into the department's, Department of Commerce. And those materials are coming out soon, which, in combination with some things that Temple has done, I think it's called US, a study destination. I mean, our country is trying to get on board with this national, international education strategy. And I think as educators, I know you're doing, Jordan's coming up with the au pair program and at the same time figuring out budget things, but I think it's important to keep abreast of those issues.
So we have 2 minutes left before the end of the hour. I posted in the chat the link to the Padlet. It would be great if we can continue the conversation, and the comments will be shared on the website, NAFSA's website, for the main event. So please continue sharing what you're doing, and I think it's great to continue this competitor collaboration and learn from each other. Thank you so much for the great questions, great conversation. Thank you, Jordan and Cheryl, for being panelists and contributing. And thank you, NAFSA members, Joanna, Erin, Alina, for helping us organize this event. For the rest of our participants, have a wonderful rest of your day. Hopefully it was useful to some extent, and hopefully you learned some new ideas, and we're looking forward to reading everyone else's. Thank you, everyone. Bye.